our live astrology Q&A call. Hopefully we're actually live. It looks like oh, there we go. We do have, and there's a chat on here. So if you hit open chat, Chelsea, you can see it on the side. Oh, and I can just tweet this. There we go. Hi, everyone. Okay, we see you now. So we have Tamika, Empress Energy, Danielle, Heather. Hello, welcome. Let me know in the chat who is here, where you're showing up from, and let me know a little bit about your background in astrology, medical astrology, and why you're here today, what you're hoping to learn. And so, for those of you who don't already know me, hello, I am Heather Eland. I am a professional medical astrologer and educator. I have a background in clinical psychology. I have a master's degree and also a background in herbalism and mind body therapies and holistic health. And I'm here to chat a little bit about medical astrology, answer your questions left over from the Medical Astrology 101 workshop that we hosted live on Sunday. Hopefully, all of you were able to either tune in live. I know I'm seeing some familiar names from the chat from then, or watch the replay. And even if you haven't, if you have questions about medical astrology or medical astrology mastery, because enrollment for that is coming to a close tomorrow and the 30% discount is vanishing. So we can chat about that too. But before we get into everything and start answering your questions, I want to introduce Chelsea, who is a brilliant medical astrologer herself. She is a graduate from Medical Astrology Mastery. She is our teaching assistant for Medical Astrology Mastery. So if you end up joining us in the program, you're going to get to know Chelsea really well because she is the main one helping answer all of your day-to-day questions as you go through the material. Welcome, Chelsea. Thank you for being here with us.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to answer questions and to just be here. It's such the course is so exciting and it honestly just changed my perspective in so many ways. And so I love being able to have the opportunity to work with people that are also going through the course. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. You're the one helping all of our students. I should definitely be thanking you. So we have a few people in the chat. So Kelsey's here from Virginia. She said she's been interested in astrology since childhood and she loves the medical astrology niche. Um, Heather is here from upstate New York and she has studied natal charts and predictive astrology. Oh, you took celestial vitality. Nice. How did you like that? It seems like you enjoyed it because you said you'd love to learn more. Perfect. Heather Owens is tuning in from Chicago. Nice. I used to live in Chicago. What neighborhood are you in? She's been taking basic astrology classes the last year to learn more about the houses and transits. You're a beginner. Oh, perfect. Well, if you have a good understanding of the houses and transits, you're a little bit past the beginner phase, or even if that's where you're learning. So you're in the right place. You're on the right track here. You'll be able to kind of dive into medical astrology at least a little bit. So let me know, you guys. Okay, you're Fulton. Cool. Let me know, you guys, where or what your questions are. So, what do you want to know about any of the information, maybe that you need a deeper understanding of, or that you need clarification with from Medical Astrology 101 from Sunday, or if you have any general medical astrology questions? We're not going to be answering personal medical questions here today. For a variety of reasons. We would need to really have your chart handy to do a good job with that, especially with medical astrology. It's something that's very nuanced and I take very seriously. We want to make sure we're doing everything really ethically. And also, there's like a whole situation legally where we're not doing certain things with that, especially on YouTube. So I just want to, clarify. But if you have a more general question about, certain placements and patterns or anything to do with medical astrology, just type it in the chat and we will start diving in. Also, as I mentioned at the start, Medical Astrology Mastery, which is our full comprehensive medical astrology program that takes you from start to finish for people who already have the basics mastered for natal chart readings and a little bit of transits. This is for you to start diving in and learning how to understand the chart from a medical astrology perspective. It's super important that you first have that basic understanding, especially of natal astrology, because one of the best ways to use medical astrology, especially if you're not a healthcare practitioner of any kind, is to layer that natal application with the medical astrology significations, because it shows you how certain patterns and symptoms and diagnoses can actually be connected in very interesting ways to things in your life that you never would expect. So it could be like a career issue. It could be an issue of finding your purpose. It could be issues involving relationships. It could be a housing or location issue. It could be that you need to connect with something that you're not connected with. It can show you how your psychological and emotional and behavioral patterns are tied to actual medical issues and symptoms and things like that as well. It's not just about looking at, oh, hey, you have this pattern and let's do all the normal things that you would get from another holistic practitioner, like herbs and supplements and this and that. It's about really being able to put the pieces together and look at your health in a way that is truly and deeply holistic, that shows you how everything in your life is interconnected with your physical health. And so that's what I love about medical astrology. And so after that spiel, let's start looking into some of the questions we have. So Alan says, when is the 30% off here? Or the 30% off finished? Here is 2020. I don't know what that part means, but so you'll get 30% off if you enroll before 11:59 p.m. Mountain Standard Time tomorrow on February 11th. There's a little countdown timer on the registration page. Chelsea, if you'll drop the link in the chat too, just in case you're not seeing it in the description. And yeah, so not only will you get 30% off, but we also have activated an extended payment plan option that's not normally available to help make just getting started a little bit more affordable for new students at the start of this year. And that's going to go away at midnight tomorrow as well. So definitely check that out if you're interested. So Jonah says, which transit impacts low immunity? So that's a really great question. Um, there is no transit that by itself is going to impact low immunity for every person everywhere. Basically, with medical astrology, what we look at are patterns in your natal chart and how those patterns are being activated by transit. And so the immune system in medical astrology, as you learned in Medical Astrology 101, is ruled by a couple of different things. It's ruled by Virgo. It's ruled by that Virgo Pisces axis, because Pisces is the lymphatic system. And so they kind of play off of one another. And also Mars has a very big impact on the immune system. And so in your natal chart, if you already have a pattern of potential challenge or dysfunction around, let's say, the Virgo Pisces axis, or with your Mars being debilitated in some way, then that might indicate that you have more of a, not a predisposition, because this isn't about like diagnosing people with things and you might never have immune system issues, but it makes it so there's a potential connection there, where if you have other patterns in your chart that support it, if you have environmental factors throughout your life that support it, and you have the perfect storm of transits that come over that specific configuration, or those configurations in your chart, because really immune system dysfunction, autoimmune, all of these different things will be more than one pattern, then and only then will you potentially develop an issue, unless it's something that you were born with. So that is how medical astrology works. So there's not like a transit that comes by like, oh, Neptune's moving into Aries, everyone's immune system is going to be terrible now. Like that's just, it's not how it works, because then we would all be sick with the same things at the exact same time, and we're all just very different people. And it's not that when you have a certain personal transit, like, oh, Neptune's coming over my Mars, my immune system's gonna just crap out on me. Not necessarily. No, like if you have a really strong Mars, you have other indicators of strength and vitality, like Heather learned in Celestial Vitality about how to kind of like assess the baseline immunity, then that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have any sort of immune issues. So That's my answer to that, my very long-winded answer. Chelsea, do you have anything to add to that?
I would also say just an additional perspective, it would also depend on like what has if you are about to face a particular transit, like what were you facing leading up to that? Are you already run down? Has life already been beating you down in other ways? And then because then it could be that you are more prone to whatever weakness is because you're already kind of feeling that anyway.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And that's kind of the environmental influences, but also looking at like if you're hit by transit, by transit, by transit, like over and over again, you're just getting this onslaught and your life is just a lot harder at that time. Being under a lot of stress weakens the immune system. So even for someone who is very healthy and vital, if you're getting the right onslaught of transits, you might be more likely to like catch a cold or, like small things. It's not going to cause usually a major chronic issue, but that's a very good point. Absolutely. Let's see. I got to scroll up here. What did we just answer? There we go. So Uranus transiting the ascendant, what type of illness comes up and do these illnesses go away when it moves away? So again, same answer. There's no specific type of illness that would come up for that. Most people would have no illness come up. If it is, it's something that's probably going to come out of left field because it's a very Uranian thing. But there's no way to answer that because it's going to be very different for every person. And again, this is what we teach you the foundation of in medical astrology mastery. There's no just blanket Uranus hitting the ascendant illness. Uranus is connected to things that are unusual, unexpected. It is connected to the electrical systems of the body. It's connected to the circulatory system. It's connected to potentially being more impacted by external electrical stimuli and things like that in your environment. So I would say if you're having that come up and you're concerned for some reason about illness, like maybe you have a certain pattern with your first house, your ascendant, and in the past triggers to that have activated some sort of chronic issue or something like that, I would look to detoxing, doing like a tech detox around that time, getting yourself away from all of the EMFs and outside radiation and outside influences. And just know that when Uranus is transiting your ascendant, you're going to be more scattered. You're going to be more on edge. Your nervous system is likely to be a little over supercharged. And so it's something to plan for and maybe do a little bit of work around before, during, and after in order to keep yourself healthy and feeling good during that time. That I think that would be the main thing I could say about that. What about you, Chelsea?
I would say grounding, of course, because I
Mm.
always kind of look at Uranus as like this all of this information, this electricity, all these different waves that we don't even know about all around us. And when a lot of that comes into our body, it's like we if we connect to the earth, like there are ways for us to get that energy, support the channel and flowing out of the body. And also just outlets to get all this because Uranus is like this energy of the genius. Like there can be some really profound awakenings and just like really, really unique inspiration that can come up. But it's important to have a channel. And that can also, like, whether it's like a creative outlet or do something to, I would say, like, shake up the energy. If things are feeling stagnant in your life, make sure you're shaking out that energy, bringing in nice new things, kind of getting rid of the old things. Cause also that can kind of have an impact on our body, like our environment, what's around it.
Oh, yeah. I love that. Absolutely. Um, okay. Let's see. I have to keep scrolling up because it's going crazy here. Pluto conjunct Scorpio will come back from many challenges. That Pluto and Scorpio, I mean, yeah, that's correct. If that's Pluto is a planet that gives resiliency and the ability to really come back from. I've seen examples of people coming back from the brink of death or from like paralysis, and then all of a sudden, they're able to push through it and then they can walk again. Like all sorts of crazy stuff with strong Pluto placements. Absolutely. Um, from Celestial Vitality, I know you use whole sign houses for reading charts. Is this traditional for medical astrology? Yes, actually, it is. Although in the medieval times, I don't know exactly which house systems they were using. I know that there's more quadrant house systems that were brought in like later in the game. I use the traditional house systems for medical astrology. It just works a lot better. And especially because I rely so heavily on house rulerships, and house rulerships do not work in Placidus or a quadrant house system. They just don't. And so, yeah, so that's what I prefer to use. If you want to use a quadrant house system like Placidus, I would recommend at least trying it with whole sign first to see how it works once you're going through the course and all of that. But you can apply most of what I'm teaching to a quadrant house system. The exception of that would be anything that I teach involving house rulership. You really need to look at the traditional houses. And so, an easy way to do that, if you have a Placidus chart up, is just to count like the fifth house from the ascendant would be, or the fifth sign from the ascendant would be the fifth house. So, you can have a Placidus chart open and very easily eyeball the whole sign houses and do an overlay. That's how I used to actually practice astrology until I moved more toward whole sign houses just because of the increase in accuracy I was getting. So, but yeah, you can play with it. There's a lot of medical astrologers who use Placidus and they do great with it. I prefer whole sign now. um, in regards to the moon, wondering if the natal moon phase plays a role in medical astrology. It could. It could. I have not, I can't think of any specific illness patterns that I've come across that are tied specifically to lunar phases. Have you seen anything like that, Chelsea?
No, but I do appreciate having doing lunar return charts to kind of get a zoom in. That's how I like to use like the lunar kind of vibe.
Yeah, that can be a really good one. And I know you were doing some research on that and kind of looking at that and also like female menstrual cycle. And we should do something on that at some point.
Absolutely, because then everyone can kind of bring in their own experiences too after doing some research for even like 3 months. Kind of you can pick up on a lot of patterns.
Yeah, definitely. And it is interesting. So, yeah, that would be something that you could potentially do with the moon, but I haven't seen any specific patterns with the moon for illness or disease or anything like that. I mean, I think you would consider it in the same way you'd consider it in a natal reading, but yeah, I'm sure there could be something. I
Well,
haven't seen everything.
now that you mention it, I would say like eclipses. So, like that has kind of brought up some different things. I don't remember what paper I was going through recently. It might have been on depression. But there were a lot of connections, like several of the charts were eclipse charts and so like full moon and they were near the nodes as well.
Well, and that makes sense because the north and south node being near the moon or the sun has a huge health impact because the north and south nodes just have a huge impact in general. But when you tie them to the general significator of the body, which is the moon, and also the moon has a huge tie to mental health, you'll see a lot of chart patterns for specific mental illness diagnoses that have a north or south node conjunct the moon. That's so common, especially with psychosis and the north node. That is a big one. The other thing that you'll see very commonly is north or south node conjunct the sun, especially south node conjunct the sun, because south node is leaky and weakening, and the sun is our vitality and our life force energy. And so you don't want to weaken that. And so, like, I know this placement very well because I have that placement. I was born in eclipse season and I have an exact conjunction between my south node and sun. And I've dealt with chronic illness for a really long time. And when you look at the placement of the sun in that particular instance, the sign that it's in can give you clues into body systems and areas that you might want to focus on strengthening and working a little bit harder with in order to mitigate those potential challenges. So, yeah. And again, all things will teach you how to do in medical astrology mastery. Okay, let's see.
That kind of goes
Um,
along with a question I think we might have passed over, which is what can be the impacts of the north or south node transits in medical
mhm.
astrology if there are any?
Okay, yeah. And similar thing, it depends. It all depends on your birth chart. If you don't have a pattern connected to illness, you don't have anything going on with, let's say, your sun or your moon or your Mars or whatever the north and south node are hitting in your chart, and it's not the ruler of your sixth house or something like that, or the ruler of your ascendant, then it probably doesn't gonna have a medical impact. So it depends on what you're looking at. So the North Node transits can cause some sort of disruption to your health, especially if it's happening in the sixth house or it's happening with the ruler of your sixth house, if it's on your ascendant, if it's with your moon, et cetera, et cetera. South Node can do the same. South Node is usually worse. It's more weakening. So again, like when it comes to medical astrology, the South Node is usually more problematic for physical issues because it's so non-physical and it's it's a leaky, weakening, lessening, releasing sort of energy. And it can weaken systems of the body that are already kind of, if there's already a predisposition, you're already kind of weak there based on your chart and your life choices, then it can come in and it can make things worse. But again, the way that that shows up is going to be so individualized for each person's chart. Okay. Every time I scroll up, it's jumping down. What's the next question?
So the next question, it looks like we have, do you have any sliding scale pricing for lower income?
So we do have an extended payment plan option right now and 30% off. So you're going to get a heavily discounted rate. We also do offer an extended payment plan for financial hardship. So just email us at info@astrologywithheather.com if that's something that you feel like you're needing, and we'll get you set up with that. But yeah, so we do have something for that, not necessarily a sliding scale, but just a different version of the payment plan that makes it more affordable on a monthly basis.
Okay.
Oh,
And then, oh, sorry, go ahead.
there's a problem with the YouTube description. It says 50% off. Oh, that's weird. Okay. Well, anyway, it's 30% off. It's not 50% off. All right. What's the next question? I'm going to fix that real quick.
So the next question is about yods. It says, while usually a yod should be only planets in medical astrology, would it still be significant if it's formed with a north node involved? Also, I couldn't find the in conjunct book listed in the materials.
Okay. So that's a lot of questions.
I do
So
think I have the printout, the PDF of the in conjunct book, so I'll add that into the student community once I find it.
yeah, so there is, I think we found like a free open source version of that somewhere that is like legitimate and we're not infringing on copyright issues that we have shared in the student community. So we'll reshare that if that is the case. But the psychodynamics of ink conjunctions is out of print. It used to be easy to find for super cheap. And then I started talking about it all over YouTube for like 10 years. And now nobody can get it. So the man who wrote it is no longer with us on this earth. And I don't know how we could get it to reprint. So maybe I'll have to be a part of that because I think I'm the problem here. um, but a yod with the North Node, I wouldn't count that. No, the yods are really more with planets, and the angles can be a big thing with the yods. I wouldn't count a North and South Node yod as being a yod necessarily because it's not going to function the same way. Or the planetary energy at the apex is sort of suppressed and or overexpressed. It's expressed in a way that's like inappropriate, right? And there's a latent talent that is repressed that comes out over time after usually quite a few big long-term transits over the apex. And so like yeah, there could be something with that, but it's just not the same as a planet. Like it doesn't have the same significations, it doesn't have the same impact. It's not a real body in the sky. I've seen Chiron work like okay with yods because Chiron's a physical thing, right? The north and south nodes are just astronomical calculations, and I think that's why it doesn't work the same. So at least in my experience, I haven't seen a lot of that working. Chelsea, I don't know if you have anything to add.
Well, in my personal chart, speaking of asteroids, I have Eris as the apex of a yod with Mars and Pluto. And it's in my seventh house, so I do I do have a little bit of that energy every now and then, I can't lie. But that's just my own personal experience. And when I noticed that, I was like, oh, like certain things kind of made sense. So maybe there is something to it with the asteroids.
Yeah, and again, that makes sense. It's like a physical body in the sky, so I could get on board more with that. I haven't really explored in conjunctions to Eris, but I think it would make sense for sure.
So we also have a question. In general, I think someone is meaning to say, in general, are there indicators of dog bites over the years? True question. So I guess like, are there indicators in the chart of dog bites?
There is a specific fixed star that's
Yes.
associated with dog
Yes,
bites,
I knew that. I knew that too. I want to say it's
which
in Cancer, but I don't remember
yeah,
what it is.
I'm pretty sure it is. I can't remember off the top of my head the name of this fixed star. I don't have all the significations, all the fixed stars memorized, but I have looked into some of the medical astrology ones. And I have a spreadsheet that I don't, it's not on my, I switched computers since I made it and I don't know where it is. So I can't pull it up off the top of my head. It's probably in my external hard drive that has all the significations. But there is a dog bite fixed star. I can look that up and post it in the student community if you're a student. If not, just Google it. I'm sure it's there. And then in addition to that, you could just look at the significations for such things in a chart. So Mars is injuries, accidents, bites. Like that would be a Mars thing. The sixth house is animals. The sixth house ruler is animals, but also the moon is the general significator of dogs. And so I would assume if there's not that fixed star connection, but I bet there is. If someone's just getting bitten by dogs constantly and they're like not a dog trainer or something, and like they're just a normal person not working with dogs and they're just getting bitten by dogs all the time, it's probably that fixed star.
Okay, so someone says, do we talk about asteroids here? If so, please tell me about Ceres.
So we absolutely cover certain specific asteroids in medical astrology mastery. So if that's something you're interested in, dive in. Ceres is very important in medical astrology. We have a whole lesson on Ceres. And it's one of the bonus lessons with the course. I basically did every asteroid and extra planetary body that I utilize in medical astrology has its own bonus lesson within the course. Series has to do with food sensitivities, especially sensitivities to wheat, gluten, obviously grain goddess. I mean, it doesn't always work that way, right? Where it's like so literal to the mythology around the namesake of the asteroid. But in this case, it seems to hold true. And also with like milk and lactose intolerance, you'll see that. Ceres is also very heavily connected to eating disorders. And so we go through a lot of examples of chart patterns for eating disorders that include a Ceres connection in medical astrology mastery as well. So, series you want to look at, especially food and issues pertaining to food in medical astrology.
I want to add something interesting
Yeah.
because when I was doing research about addictions, so like substance use disorder is what it's called now, Ceres was popping up a lot. And
Mm.
it was challenging aspects with Ceres that involved, I want to say it was a combination of Saturn, Neptune, and Mars. I feel like
Oh.
all of them were kind of involved. Or if it wasn't all 4, it would be at either one of, like, the malefics, like, either Saturn or Mars. And so I think that's, like, an interesting kind of thing to consider too, especially when we think about how Ceres has to do with how we were nurtured or not nurtured.
Mhm.
And so perhaps people that didn't receive certain types of nurturing kind of maybe lean towards substances for more support. So I found that as a very fascinating connection.
That's really interesting. And it would make sense too, the Neptune Mars component, because that Neptune Mars energy, when they're in aspect, especially challenging aspect, can be associated, especially with like alcoholism, but addiction in general. And then obviously Saturn is not an easy connection. So yeah, that's interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, Saturn, Mars, and Neptune were kinda like the usual suspects, but I was surprised to see Ceres come up so much.
Oh, wow. Okay. Something to make note of. See, you're always learning something too with medical astrology because we do a lot of like chart research for different illnesses and symptoms and stuff like that as part of just practicing medical astrology and working with different clients, but also as part of medical astrology mastery. It's what you kind of build toward in the entire course. And the last module, the last section of the course, is all about looking at disease patterns and doing your own chart research so you can effectively look at anything that anyone throws at you and figure out what patterns are connected. So we have like a growing like database of everyone's final research projects because everybody gets to research a disease that they choose and find all the patterns, and then we share it all in the community, and then you can go back and kind of look at what other people have found if you have something that comes up that you need info on, so you don't have to go in and like get all of your charts yourself every single time. But yeah, anyway, that's part of what we do. um Okay, so how does having 3 or more combust planets affect your health? So again, I feel like a lot of these questions I'm going to answer in a very similar way over and over again. It depends. Depends on your chart. It depends on what planets they are, because different planets are associated with different body systems and functions of the body. And so having, you know, Venus, Mars, and Mercury combust is going to be different than having like Jupiter, Saturn, and Mars combust, because all of these planets rule different things in the body. I would also want to look at what is going on in terms of the sign placement. So, like, what sign are all of these planets in? Because that sign is going to rule a specific body system and body area. And then that sign is going to have referred influence from the other signs in the same modality, as you learned in Medical Astrology 101 over the weekend. And so it's a complicated question and a complicated answer. So if somebody came to me and had a specific health issue and they had 3 planets combust, I would not immediately say, you have 3 planets combust. This is the cause of your health issue. I would look at the transits that were going on at the time of onset and diagnosis and major milestones with that illness. And I would see if they are activating that combustion, because that combustion, even if that person does have a significant illness, is not necessarily a part of that illness. It doesn't necessarily have anything to do with that. And having 3 or more planets combust does not necessarily affect your health ever. Like, it doesn't mean that you're going to have any health issues with that. So, the other thing I would say about if you're looking at that, though, because you know it's a pattern connected to an illness, and maybe every time that stellium gets activated, you get sick, is I would also look at the sun being vitality, life force, energy. Obviously, in combustion, it's the sun really impacting the other planets. But when you're looking at it from a medical astrology perspective, I would also look at that stellium and how those planets might be interacting with the sun, which rules vitality, but also function of the heart and circulatory system. So, yeah, there's a lot of layers to that. There's a lot of layers to that. Chelsea, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think you answered it well. It really just depends. Also, like the aspects, looking into the rulership, like what sign is it? Who's the traditional ruler of that sign where the stellium is? Um, so for the next question, it looks like how does having many retrograde planets in your natal chart affect your health? Visible versus outer planets.
I mean, it doesn't. It doesn't necessarily affect your health. Why do you think it's affecting your health? That's my question for you. Do you have a specific illness? Is something happening when those planets are activated by transit? They can be a part of patterns of illness for sure. But again, it depends. It's just all these things depend impact on everyone's health. Um, you can kind of see certain things that I think are interesting with retrograde planets because they're considered to be debilitated. And their general indication is that there's something that's being internalized or held onto, or, you know, whatever, not being expressed externally or physically. And sometimes you can see that with the planetary energies when they're retrograde. And so, an example of this would be having Mars retrograde. Not always the case, by the way, not always the case, but like having Mars retrograde and holding on to too much iron. I have that specific placement in my chart and I have that specific problem as evidenced by my blood work. And even when I work on it and do all the things, my ferritin levels are usually a little high. And it's interesting how those things show up, right? So, it can be holding on to things very physically. It could cause it could be part of some sort of pattern of dysfunction with the bodily areas or functions that are involved with those planets, but it could also not be. right? So not everything that you see in a chart is going to manifest as illness or a health problem. Okay. What's the next one?
So this is more of a personal question, but a good one. Saturn and Capricorn in the sixth house. What does this mean for health?
Again, it doesn't necessarily mean anything. But in terms of like your health and, taking care of yourself, it means that you need structure, you need discipline. You need to have a very specific, structured, regimented health routine and to cultivate self discipline when it comes to your health, which you probably have a natural affinity for doing that anyway, because your sixth house is Capricorn, Saturn's in its home sign of Capricorn. And so it's not necessarily a bad thing for your health to have Saturn and Capricorn in the sixth house. It's at home. It just means more discipline and routine and kind of making sure you're following through and doing the same things day in and day out, taking your vitamins every day, doing your health routines every single day. Chelsea, do you have this placement? I feel like you do.
I have Saturn in the sixth house, but it's with Aquarius, so it's slightly
Okay, so
different.
a
I
little
do do my
different.
regimens, but they're just a little quirky. They're a little different. They might be a little forward thinking for some people.
Yeah. As you're like with your glowing face mask and, doing all the whatever it is that you're doing.
So I mean, I think Saturn in the sixth house is it's great, but don't let anyone ruin your routine.
Yeah.
And pray for
Good.
them. Next question. So someone is curious about Chiron placements in regards to medical astrology.
So Chiron is again something we cover. We have a whole lesson on Chiron. Um, the main thing with Chiron placements is that there's going to be like a psychological or an emotional or some sort of trauma component to the illness that it's connected to. That's kind of the main thing that you'll see. So it's not necessarily that Chiron brings physical illness, it can in certain placements, especially if it's like in a place that's very visible, like Chiron on the ascendant, for example, can sometimes bring um, different like disabilities or different features that are connected to an illness that are very visible that you can see. And so it brings like a guilt, shame, vulnerability, insecurity around your physical appearance and your physical body as a result of that. So it can be very physical if it's like in a placement like that. Otherwise, if it is tied to a pattern of illness and you verified that through going through medical astrology mastery and figuring out how to build toward that and figure out these patterns, then it's usually an indicator that there's something from your childhood around the age of the degree of Chiron or around some sort of initial activation of Chiron that is connected to, on at least a psychological or emotional level, the development of that illness. So that's something to look into, right? There's usually some other component going on there. Chelsea, do you have anything else to add to that?
I would say, because I have a really interesting my Saturn is in an exact opposition with Chiron, and, they do also form a T-square with Ceres, but so there's definitely some trauma involved, but, like, especially, like, with, like, the father, like, my dad got sick, and so that's, like,
Mhm.
literally, like, Saturn the father, and, but I used that, like, that was really like my foundation of ever wanting to understand health and have more autonomy and authority over my own health. So that's how it's really manifested for me. So I would say also that when certain activations of Chiron could kind of bring these breakthroughs when we're resilient and help us almost like not necessarily say like the word purpose, but it can definitely be supportive of a new foundation of perspective that is beneficial to us. And we may even be able to help others with it as well.
Absolutely. And that is the flip side of Chiron for sure. Having to deal with something really difficult, but being able to turn it into something where you're able to lead the way for others. Okay, what's the next?
So this again is like more of a personal question, but someone is asking about the South Node conjunct an ascendant with Mars. Is that depleting to health?
A South Node conjunct. I'm trying to find this so I can think about it a little bit better, but I don't know where it went.
It's by someone named Sarah. So if you see like the icon, it's a purple S.
So you have your son has okay, your son, like your SO. I'm glad I read that. Because what I was envisioning having your son on the ascendant. Okay, so your child has South Node conjunct his ascendant and Mars. Does that deplete his health? I mean, not necessarily. Does he have health problems specifically that you're concerned that it's connected to? Not everything is a health issue. It's just not. I would say for your son, he needs a lot of physical activity. He's probably, I mean, the South Node can be a little weakening and depleting and all of that, but having Mars on the ascendant, that's a very active child who needs to get that out in some way. So I'm sure that's fun for you to keep up with him. Okay.
This is a really great question, especially for like where we're at right now. A lot of people
Yeah.
wanting to start medical astrology. What is the best way to start applying medical astrology in daily life while still learning?
So the best way, especially if you haven't gotten to the point where you can like look at illnesses and things like that, because that's really advanced, is to start looking at your chart and some of the more general indicators for things. So I have some free videos on YouTube that talk about some of the health indicators like the sun being part of your vitality and life force energy. Something really simple to do is look at where your sun sign is. Very straightforward. Everybody knows that. Are you aligning your energy and your life with your sun's energy, because the sun is the soul's expression of purpose and physical reality. And when you're not connecting with the energy of your sun placement, sign, house aspects, you are going to feel so depleted. Your life force is going to drain out of you. You're not going to be vibrant and healthy. You could end up feeling very depressed, and that could impact your physical body. So start just looking at some of those basic things. Um, what does your ascendant look like? What does your sixth house look like? How can you play into the elements that are associated with the sign of the ascendant in the sixth house with your day to day health routines? What does that? Oh, someone says the sound is gone.
I can hear you.
Okay. Oh, someone said their Bluetooth died. Can you guys hear me? Let's go on here. This is going to be annoying for a second, guys. Okay, so it's on YouTube, it's fine. So if you're not hearing me, it might be your issue. Although a couple people were having that.
Maybe refresh the screen if you're having issues hearing,
Okay, a lot of
perhaps.
people are saying the audio is fine. So I don't remember what we were talking about. What were you talking about before that happened?
I'm trying to even find the question. Oh, applying medical astrology in daily life while still learning. So you gave some
Oh,
some pretty solid tips.
yeah. I
Um,
feel like that's a good place to get started. Do you have anything else to add to that?
yeah, that's more than enough to get started. I would say also like even to simplify more, look at one thing at a time. Like if there's or just yeah, like work with one thing at a time, maybe sit with it, journal it. Like for instance, like you're the ruler of your sixth house. What does your sixth house look like? What's the ruler of your sixth house doing? That alone can tell you a whole story. I would say like journaling is really great, documenting things, writing things down. That's when a lot of even if you're not
Mhm.
trying to draw connections, that's when a lot of dots can start connecting. It's just when you're having those conversations with yourself and really looking at what you're putting on paper or on the screen, typing things.
That's a good point too, because before I really seriously started studying medical astrology, when I was really sick all the time, I started noticing that when the moon was in certain signs, I would feel much worse. And that's how I figured out the first like pattern of illness for me. I was like, I don't know why this is connected to my symptoms and what I'm experiencing. But obviously, this pattern here, these cardinal energies, are connected to it because every time the moon hits them throughout the month, like 4 times a month, I feel worse. And if there's something big happening, like a full moon there, it's like, oh gosh, what is going on? So that's a really great one. You'll learn things just from doing that, especially if you're somebody who has health issues. And something interesting, so the person that was asking about the child with the Mars on the ascendant, so he's 21 now. He does a physical job and is a gym guy. So he's helping that aspect. So literally perfect. Okay, so
So
what's the next one?
now we have, does sect play a part in medical astrology? If so, can you explain a bit how it does?
Oh, absolutely. It's going to be the same as with regular astrology. The planet that is so the malefic that's contrary to the sect is going to be more malefic. The benefic that's of the sect is going to be more benefic. And so when you're looking at kind of health issues and potential ways to do things that are supportive to the body in order to maybe mitigate what's in your chart so you can stay healthy, that would be something to consider. Because if you were born, um, with an afflicted Mars, and then it's also a day chart, Mars is going to be more malefic, right? And so it's going to be potentially even more problematic. So you might want to focus on Mars over Saturn and supporting Mars over Saturn. So these things do matter in the exact same way as they do in the natal chart. So that's a good question.
And the next question we have, what type of placements do you see in chronic respiratory disease patients like asthma?
That is a good question. With asthma, it depends, but if I can remember off the top of my head some of the placements, because I have researched this one, it's been a while, so I apologize. I'm not going to have all of the patterns fresh in my brain. You'll see similar configurations as you will with people who have just really bad allergies and things like that. So there will be a lot of Neptunian influence, a lot of Piscean influence. The moon is usually implicated, even though you wouldn't necessarily think that. And the moon has to do with like the mucous membranes and things like that too. And so you will see those three planets definitely strong in not every single case, but a lot of those cases. And if you think about back from a medical astrology 101, like what rules the respiratory system, what rules the lungs, so that's going to be Gemini. And then you can look at that whole axis of the mutable signs if you need to. I see a lot of Sagittarius actually, now that I'm thinking about it. I remember there's like more Sagittarius than you would think, which is the opposite sign of Gemini in respiratory issues, especially asthma. And then you also want to look at Mercury, because Mercury is breathing. It's literally the function of the lungs and respiration. So, yeah, absolutely. Someone says, can we sign up for medical astrology at any time? I want to take cosmic wellness first. What is cosmic wellness?
I guess I would say maybe they're thinking like the workshops, like celestial vitality, celestial nourishment, perhaps.
Oh, yeah, and
Celestial
yeah, you can sign
self-care.
up for medical astrology mastery at any time. It's just not you're gonna pay more. So if you know you're gonna do it, you can take your time and it's self-paced, so you don't have to start right now. But yeah, you can choose your own adventure. Okay,
So
what's the next
we
question?
have, regarding possible culprits with weird or hard to diagnose health issues my whole life. I'm also one of those people that meds don't work right on me, don't get numb, wake up during surgeries.
Oh, there's a specific thing with that, and I can't remember the placements. Like waking up during surgeries, like not having the anesthesia work. Oh my gosh. It's in my brain, but I don't have it. If it comes to me, I'll let you know. But there's a pattern with that. But I would say you have some sort of Neptune issue going on for sure with everything that you're describing. Neptune is probably a prevalent player. Also, if you haven't done so, watch my video where I talk about common patterns for like mysterious chronic illnesses. But what you're talking about, I would be very interested to know what's going on with Neptune in your chart for sure. Um, okay, what's the next question?
Is there any Am I okay? I thought I was muted. Is there any correlation with having facial cold sore slash shingle outbreaks? I seem to have issues when Mars and Chiron have any connections with each other.
Just like in the sky or your Mars and Chiron?
I'm guessing it's their Mars and Chiron. I would ask if they have any mutable, prominent planets in the mutable signs, because I too have had some shingles issues.
Yeah, and that affects like the nerves and stuff like that. That would make a lot of sense. Mars is often very heavily implicated for things like cold sores. And I wonder if this person has Chiron on the ascendant or with the ascendant ruler, because that is something that's very visible. And so having that Mars activation and then having that come up at the time of the Mars activation would make sense. Yeah, looking to the nervous system, looking to Mercury also, that would be something to think about with shingles. But yeah, I mean, it makes sense, but the Chiron part of it is interesting to me simply because it makes me think that there's something more visible about that person's Chiron just because of the cold sore component. But yeah, I mean, we're just speculating, you guys. We can't, we need your charts to know these
It
things.
is
I don't
interesting
know.
though, because Chiron does form an opposition with the ruler of my sixth house, Saturn. And so
Oh,
I can't remember. I wish I knew like what date this happened, but it was so mysterious that it happened to me too. Cause like I got it from my grandmother, and they say you can't get shingles from people. Like you can't get it from people. But I went and saw her, and my whole family did. But 2 weeks later, I was the only one who started getting shingles.
weird. Interesting. Yeah. And that's also like, I mean, it's a skin thing too. It's like a nerve, but it's very much a skin thing. It's also very visible. Interesting. Okay, we'll have to do a deep dive research project on shingles now. I don't think I've done that. I have had a lot of clients with cold sores, and I've seen how that plays out a lot. Usually it's something where there's a Mars activation and there's a Mars energy in the birth chart, and it's usually in a very visible area of the chart when it's something that's like on your face like that. But yeah, shingles, it doesn't necessarily have to be on your face either. So interesting. Okay, what's the next question?
What does Chiron have to do with medical astrology? We've kind of already answered that, I think, right? Maybe I
Yeah, they
missed a
probably
little
typed
bit.
it before we answered it.
Okay. I am second or third generation with celiac and lactose intolerance. Oh, that's interesting about series. Sorry, that wasn't a
Okay.
question. This is a super personal question. Someone said, "How about asthma?" Probably after, let's see. Now I want to learn a lot about Ceres as someone with Ceres in their sixth house. What's the difference between combust and conjunction?
So, combust is a very specific term that has to do with the sun being in a close conjunction with any of the traditional visible planets. And so it has to be within a 15-degree orb, but not exact. So, if it's with exact within 16, 17 minutes of a conjunction with the sun, then it's considered to be cazimi. Also, if the planet is in the sign of its rulership and it conjuncts the sun, it's considered to be in its chariot, which is different than combust. And so it's just a very specific way of talking about a conjunction with the sun or a type of conjunction with the sun where the sun occults the visibility. It's like you can't see that planet because it's being burned by the rays of the sun. And it makes the more negative qualities of that planet tend to come out more, and the more positive qualities tend to be suppressed. So I have a whole video about combustion, cazimi, chariot, all of that on my channel that you can watch that will teach you all about it. Okay, what's next?
Next, we have how might having your sun and moon 5 degrees apart in Leo affect you from a medical astrology perspective?
It probably doesn't. I don't know. What illnesses do you have? And I need to see your chart. But seriously though, like it probably doesn't affect you medically unless you have a reason to believe it, or you have a specific illness and you know that it's connected to that pattern through like activations, or if those two planets are debilitated in some way, or there's like a really harsh square to something, then I might be more concerned that there's some sort of health implication. A new moon is in and of itself is not necessarily connected to anything with your health.
So my Mercury is retrograde in Cancer, conjunct my natal sun, ninth house. How does this affect the, well, that is specific. Um,
Yeah, we're not going to answer that type of question on here.
sorry.
I'm sorry. That's like a natal chart reading.
Beyond moon, what other planets usually impact sleep? I guess you are not at celestial self-care. And then they say Saturn is 29 degrees in Gemini, Mars is 3 degrees in Gemini, 12th house.
None of that's
12th
relevant. Well,
house.
I guess it's 12th house, so it's relevant. So you know that the 12th house impacts your sleep. So the moon is like lowest on the totem pole. So your 12th house, the sign in the 12th house, the planets in the 12th house, those are going to be the main things that are impacting your sleep, in addition to the planet that rules the 12th house. So when I say the planet that rules the 12th house, I mean the traditional planet, the visible planet, so Sun through Saturn, that rules the house or the sign that occupies the 12th house using whole sign houses. That will be your 12th house ruler. That's the main planet you want to be looking at for sleep. And then anything that's in your 12th house. The moon does have an impact on sleep, but it's less so usually than these other placements. Definitely check out Celestial Self Care if you haven't already done so. Half of the workshop is all about looking at sleep and figuring out how to have better sleep based on these placements. So, good question. I like that question.
All right. So this next one says, have you noticed any recurring health themes for Via Combusta Scorpio moon?
No, I haven't. Via combusta is typically only utilized, well, traditionally, as far as I know, the via combusta is more of a big thing for horary astrology than anything else. You might use it for electional too. Um, I haven't personally seen anything with Via Combusta specifically, like especially the Libra component of it. But Moon and Scorpio, because it's the moon is at its fall there, I absolutely have seen, especially mental health patterns that are connected with Moon in Scorpio, but not at a specific degree where it's Via Combusta, just literally in general in Scorpio. It's definitely implicated more so than not in certain mental health diagnoses. But via combustion, no, I haven't seen anything where there's like, oh, there's this pattern here where everyone who has moon via combusta for this specific illness. I personally haven't seen that. And if you
I
were
just,
born with moon
oh,
via combusta, I wouldn't worry about that. As like a side note, in natal readings, it doesn't seem to be as applicable as it is in other things. Okay. Anyway.
this is more of a comment, but it's interesting, and I want to encourage them. Yes, you should
Okay.
look at the transits. Someone said, I went through a severe health crisis last year, infection, sepsis, pneumonia, was in and out of the hospital for over a year, 6 times. Do I need to look at transits or natal to understand? Definitely see where those activations were. I'm sure they would pop out at you, especially if you have those exact dates of when you were hospitalized.
Yeah, so use the transits to identify which parts of your natal chart were being affected at the time of all of those incidences. And that's how you're going to start to understand the patterns for you personally that are connected to potential health issues. So yeah, just like what Chelsea said. So it's both, but you want to use those transits to understand what you have natally.
Someone asks, what placement do you see in the chart for heart diseases?
So, common patterns for especially like heart attack and heart disease, and I mean, really any issues with the heart, you're going to see a lot of Saturn and Uranus with the heart. Like I see that a lot, especially with heart attacks, sometimes a Mars component as well. So, those are the things that you'll see most commonly for heart attacks. Heart disease, kind of a similar thing. You'll see a lot of Saturn energy with the sun. I'd have to pull out my research because there is differences between heart disease and like heart attack. Obviously, those are not the same thing. But you'll see similar patterns with just issues pertaining to the heart. You'll see a lot of arrhythmias with the Uranus components with the sun. You'll also see a lot of arrhythmias, like cardiac arrhythmias, with the north and south node conjunct the sun. You'll also see sometimes Leo implicated or Aquarius implicated in a pattern involving, heart issues. But the biggest one you'll see very commonly, also sometimes Pluto will be with the sun, Saturn, Uranus, um, what else did I say? And Mars. So like those planets together in difficult configurations can indicate sometimes being more likely to have something like a heart attack. Or maybe not being more likely. I'm not like saying that you're more likely to have it, but you'll see those patterns more commonly in people who have suffered a heart attack. Are there any ones that I'm missing? Do you know, Chelsea, off the top of your head? I feel like I'm missing
Definitely
something.
like I feel like the fixed signs with that
Yes.
Leo, Aquarius kind of, referred influence.
Yeah. So the
I can
signs
never
in
remember
general, so
that.
not just Leo. Okay.
So someone must have watched, I feel like this came from your Mars retrograde video a year ago. Someone asks, "Don't do surgery when Mars is retrograde?" Question mark.
If you need surgery, do surgery. Like, if it's an emergency and you have to have a surgery and it's like, this shouldn't wait, don't look at your chart, don't look at anything. Just have the surgery. Oh my God, you guys. But if you are having an elective surgery that could be done now or 10 years from now, doesn't matter. And you want to choose the best possible timing. If you are redoing something, like you have to have surgery to kind of redo something from a prior surgery, which sometimes happens, then Mars retrograde is appropriate. Otherwise, I would probably wait because Mars rules surgery. And but also if you're born under a Mars retrograde, that changes things too. So it depends on the person and the situation. But if you need to have surgery and they're like, you should have the surgery now, have the like just have the surgery, you guys. This is the time that the universe chose for you, and it'll probably be okay. But you need to have your interventions when they're supposed to happen, especially if it's urgent.
And
That's
also
my
like
my biggest
a
advice.
another perspective too, like if that happens to come up, like of course your life would slow down a little bit. Like it's a perfect opportunity
Mhm.
to slow down. That's what you want to do during Mars retrograde is move a little bit slower, especially if you
Yeah,
don't have it natally.
and maybe your surgeon was born under a Mars retrograde and he's like a way better surgeon during those times. Like you don't know. Like you never know why this is happening the way it's happening. So just think about it like that.
Someone asks, "What does it mean to have Neptune in the first house?"
People with Neptune in the first house tend to be more sensitive overall. They're like psychic sponges for everything and anything that they come into contact with in their environment, energetically or otherwise. So, people with Neptune on the ascendant, they're very, I hate using the word empath because it's overused. All of you guys are not all empaths, but like empathic, right? They're very empathic. If there are empaths in the world, Neptune on the ascendant people are those people. Very empathic, usually very psychically attuned, but also very, very sensitive, where they have a hard time discerning what's coming in and where it's coming from, especially on that like psychic, intuitive, energetic level. They're very sensitive to environmental energies, not just like frequencies, but even things like something happened in this space and it was really dark and really negative. They'll feel it and they'll absorb that. Same thing with the emotional energy and just the general vibe of people around them. They have to be careful where they place themselves. And in medical astrology, it just means that they're typically more sensitive to everything. So chemicals in their environment, quality of air, quality of food, poisons, those types of things. So you just want to be extra cautious around those things. You're probably already aware that you're very sensitive if you have Neptune on your ascendant. So it's probably not, this is not a surprise.
And have good boundaries.
Yes.
Um, in all areas. So, what about mold neurotoxicity? Would you be willing to share about this?
Mold. So neurotoxicity specifically, that's not everyone who has mold illness is going to have that. But mold is ruled by Neptune. Also, I've seen a lot of Pluto association with mold. But Neptune seems to be a little bit stronger, I think, because there is that moisture component. So you'll see a lot of strong Neptune placements for people who have sensitivities to mold, who end up getting mold illness. You can have like 10 people in the same building and only one person could get sick from the mold. Like that's just how it is. And there's actually a genetic predisposition to getting sick from mold. I have that. It's fun. I also have strong Neptune connections to my chronic situations that I've had in my life. So that can be a big one. Pluto can be a big one to look at for mold. Neurotoxicity, you're going to want to look at the nervous system, the brain. You're going to want to look at moon, Mercury, and the mutable signs for that.
So, is there a correlation between ADD or neurodivergent disorders with Sun Saturn placements?
Um, I believe I'd have to look at my notes. I believe potentially with autism, but not ADHD or ADD. And Chelsea, do you have anything to add to that?
I'm still like kind of so this person said so this is a personal question, but it is an interesting one. My sister has Sun conjunct Saturn opposite natal south node conjunct Chiron. So there's a lot of different parts
So
that you can
that's
kind of
Sun,
pick up.
Saturn, North Node conjunction altogether, then, right? Chiron
Y-
also.
Yeah, Sun conjunct Saturn. Wait, so Sun Saturn opposite, so Sun Saturn North node, and I guess Chiron's on the other side with the South Node. So there's like a lot to pick apart there.
I would really want to see that chart. There are specific patterns that are connected to autism and being on the autism spectrum. There's a whole slew of different symptoms and different patterns for autism, and it shows up very differently for different people. So you'll find that also with the astrology. ADD and ADHD show up in a pretty similar way across the board, not to autism, but like everyone who has those diagnoses and who actually has those conditions tends to show up with like certain patterns. But with autism, it's a little bit more all over the place, but there are certain patterns that you'll see that are super common. I don't know about that chart. I'd have to see that chart to know what's going on there. There's probably more to it than that. And I also don't even know what house these are in or anything.
Yeah, people are posting interesting specific questions because someone currently has shingles. And she mentioned her houses, looks like a house to do with Neptune, Saturn, Pisces, Aries.
Okay. Well, this is a good time here to just take a quick break and let you guys know that if you are, because obviously you are all very interested in medical astrology and you want the advanced stuff. You want the things that we need your chart in front of you. We need to do some deep chart research into all sorts of different diseases to give you really solid answers on, which is what we do in Medical Astrology Mastery. And so, again, Medical Astrology Mastery is on sale right now for 30% off until tomorrow, February 11th at 11:59 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. You're going to get self-paced lessons all taught by me with 5 different levels. You're going to get a lifetime access to the material. It's self-paced. You're going to get access to our student community where you can ask questions, do chart research, get answers from Chelsea and feedback on your interpretations from Chelsea. You're going to get Q&A calls every single month. And you're also going to get, I should also show this. I never show this. I don't even think it's on the website, but you get this giant workbook. This comes with the course, guys. It's huge. This thing is, people always want just this. This only works with the course. It's not its own standalone thing. It's 392 pages of medical astrology goodness, thick, giant. um, and module 1, we get into all of the planets and the connections between the planets and bodily functions in different areas of the body, and also the connections between the planets and different nutrients, different herbs, Bach flower remedies. We dive into a little bit of that. We talk about how to connect the planetary energies from a medical astrology perspective with the psychological perspective. I really like overlapping those because I think your brain is part of your body, because it is, and that the health of your mind and your brain and your psychological health has a huge impact on your physical health. We also look at the signs, and we pick that apart by modality, by element, and also just by what the signs represent in terms of their physical components. We get into all of the houses, which provide context for medical astrology, and then we dive really laser focus into the 4 main medical astrology houses and their rulers in the chart, and how to actually put that all together to understand somebody's health. We look at obviously planetary aspects. We look at patterns for evaluating overall health and wellness. So you can put together a really solid routine and sort of preventative plan that incorporates not just foods and diet and exercise and all these things, but also improving other areas of your life that you didn't realize were maybe very connected to your health in order to facilitate healing and to promote good health. And then we get into putting it all together to like really dive into these very specific questions that you guys have about very specific conditions, illnesses that you guys have, your family has, your clients have, and how to not just understand that and research anything and find out anything you want to know about medical astrology very easily, but also how to practice medical astrology in a way that is ethical and safe and just very like when you're doing something like medical astrology, you have to have a certain level of awareness of the way that you are practicing in order to not overstep and, to avoid any potential legal complications. And so we do have a whole lesson where we teach that as part of it. And then we have bonus lessons on Ceres, Trans Pluto, Chiron. Um, and then we do talk about the Lot of Fortune as well. And so yeah, it's there. So medical astrology mastery is Medical Astrology Foundations, Kelsey. We renamed it just to make it more appropriate to what you're actually learning. It's not foundational, it's not for beginners. And there was a lot of confusion about people who thought that it was a course for beginners. You need to have a background in at least natal astrology in order to utilize what's going on in this course. Elena says, how often are the live calls and classes? So the classes are self-paced. They are all pre-recorded. You can move at your own pace. Most students complete the course within 6 to 8 months, just working on it a couple of hours each week, which amounts to like 20, 30 minutes a day maximum. You can get it done in that time, and then you will receive your certificate of completion at the end, which is another thing I forgot to mention. Okay. Does anybody have any questions about that?
And that's just some of what's in the course, because you didn't mention the elements, the modalities, the neurotransmitters. You guys, the course goes deep. That's why it's
Yeah,
mastery.
if you watch Medical Astrology 101, which we did for free here on YouTube over the weekend, it gives you a more comprehensive viewpoint and a lot of good medical astrology information and significations here. So, all right, I think we're kind of past our hour here. Should we do like one more question before we sign off?
Sure. Is there one that's jumping out at you?
You can find one. I'll answer this one about the medical astrology mastery while you pick your favorite. So
Oh,
this person
okay.
said, I signed up for the Cosmic Academy of
Okay.
Astrology. Am I too late to begin? Oh, okay. So yeah, you can start it. Cosmic Academy of Astrology is self-paced too. You can start whenever you're ready. Okay, so what's the question we're going to answer? A
I
lot of
was looking
pressure.
at that one too. I'm not prepared.
How well versed should we be in transits, houses, and aspects? You should have a solid understanding of houses, aspects, and at least a basic understanding of transits to really be able to make use of the course. Some people like to do the Cosmic Academy of Astrology and Medical Astrology Mastery together, especially like level 1 of the academy, which you can purchase separately and enroll in separately while they're getting started with medical astrology mastery. And then you can kind of go back and forth between the natal, like general significations and interpretations and putting that together, and then layer on the medical astrology part. It's going to take you longer, obviously, to do it that way. But if you need that foundation, we do have a lot of students that do that. And we actually have like a map of how to kind of go through it in that way if someone's interested in doing that. Okay, so what's the question?
All right. So someone says, I gather the main health houses would be first, seventh, sixth, and 12th. Is that correct? You were
Why the
very, very
7?
close. And I feel like they're probably saying seventh because, being in opposition with the first.
Mm,
But it is not the seventh, it is the eighth. So those
yes.
are like the main houses that we go especially deep in medical astrology mastery.
Yeah, absolutely. The 8th house is really big, especially for mental health, but also when there is an 8th house connection to a physical illness, it tells you that there is often a psychological or even like a trauma layer that needs to be addressed in order to unlock that healing. So, yeah, definitely very interesting. Ah, someone says we are a powerful duo. We are. We're so powerful.
Thank you. There are so many nice comments. Thank you so much, everyone.
Yeah, and on the video we did together last weekend, I don't know if you saw those, Chelsea. There's one in particular I need to send you where I was like cracking up. I was like, this is the
I
most
think I saw
overly
it.
flattering comment I've ever seen.
I think I saw it because I looked like initially when there weren't that many comments yet, but there was that one. I think I know what you're talking
Yeah.
about.
It's like this made my life. Whoever gave us that comment, you are hired for whatever it is. All right. Okay, so I think we're going to be signing off here. And thank you guys so much for being here. I hope to see some of you in Medical Astrology Mastery. You have till tomorrow at midnight. Get in while the getting in is good and less expensive.
If you're on the fence and you have any final questions, be sure to email. What's a good email, Heather? So we can
um,
make sure.
info@astrologywithheather.com. Also, if you comment below this video, I'm going to be popping in the next 48 hours just to check on you guys and answer some more questions. And yeah, we're always there. So just email us and let us know. And yay. Thank you, Chelsea, for being here. This was fun.
Thank you. We hope to see you guys in class.
All right. Bye, everyone.